There's been a panic in the publishing industry for a decade or more, with people thinking that digital media is going to take down the industry. There's data to support this, of course. Book, movie, and newspaper sales have been trending down over time, but that's not the full story, and I think it's important that we get the full story. Clay Shirky says that it makes increasingly less sense to even talk about a publishing industry, because the core problem publishing solves, the incredible difficulty, complexity, and expense of making something available to the public, has stopped being a problem. And publishing used to be very difficult and expensive to do. In recent times, we have seen such huge developmental shifts in publishing that it has become so easy for even 12-year-olds to create and share and publish their own media. And even in this digital age, the problems that the publishing industry faced then are still facing them now, and I would argue that there's also a new challenge that they have to rise to meet. Let's start with the beginning of the publishing revolution, which Eisenstein identified as being one of the biggest developments of the introduction of the printing press in around the 15th and 16th centuries. She says that one of the most important things that printing gave humanity was easy, cheap access to vastly uniform information. Eisenstein theorized that it may have been due to this that we had the massive great leaps and bounds in scientific knowledge and development that we saw in around about the 1600s and onwards. Brannon went a little further with this and looked at the revolution of the laser printer, but I don't think that that's quite relevant for today's audience, because we're in the 21st century and there is so much more to publishing than laser printers today. So publishers have moved away from their final arbiter role in publishing and have moved towards becoming intermediaries that make it easier for people to publish today, because that's what people want. This has resulted in an exponential and to this day still expanding wealth of media data for humanity to consume, and has brought with it its own little problem for the publishing industry to solve. You see, the other thing that people want is to be told what to pay attention to, and the publishing industry aren't going to disagree with that. The media were the final agenda setters for the day, but that was back when media was restricted, when publishing was restricted, and today there are millions and millions of sources of information, every single one of them fighting for the attention of people like you and me. Goldhaber talks about the attention economy, this increasingly competitive market for the attention of people like you and me, and said that it was a zero-sum game. What one person gets, someone else is denied. And this is the second problem that publishers have to face, because it's not just enough that they become intermediaries for content, they have to be able to find the signal in all of that noise and repackage it and sell it to us. They've started by becoming essentially both publicists and archivists. Everything that's published in the digital age is essentially immediately archived and indexed, ready to be referenced by any other media organization that exists. This means that publishers are able to go through that archive, find interesting, useful information to give to their readers, their viewers, their subscribers, and then essentially wrap it in a layer of context and republish it to them. A good example of this is BuzzFeed, a news site for the 21st century person, which uses its resources to find content that their viewers might actually enjoy, and then they embed it on their site, usually with a little bit of text that explains what it is and why it's important. People can go to BuzzFeed and watch a YouTube video, read tweets, listen to an audio clip, all without leaving the BuzzFeed website. They're keeping our attention by carefully redirecting it to something else, but through their website. Google solves this problem in an even more lucrative way by creating and fine-tuning a search algorithm used by millions of people. The algorithm takes what we tell it we want to see and then directs our attention to stuff from that algorithm, but not before serving us a couple of ads at the top of the search results. And this helps publishers in two ways, because number one, they are the intermediaries now. We all self-publish through them, meaning that all of that content already exists. And secondly, they have an easy out to the problem that Goldhaber identified, in that they no longer have to worry about keeping our attention as long as the content that they send us to can keep our attention. There's only one thing that hasn't changed in publishing, and it's what assures me that publishing in the publishing industry is going to be a thing no matter how their role changes in the future. The publishing industry doesn't exist without our engagement with us. Rheingold says that knowing where to direct your attention involves a third element, other people. Google's algorithm works so well because millions upon millions of people have done searches through it, and websites like BuzzFeed work on the premise of finding content that their readers want to see, and if they don't watch that content, if they don't look at that content, then they stop directing your attention to it. People descend on media en masse because there are points of commonality for them to converge around, and publishers know this, and they're taking their new roles as tour guides well, and they can continue to do so by knowing what the people want and by giving it to them wrapped in a layer of nice content and a little bit of data. The publishing industry isn't dying, they simply had to change what they're doing to suit the media climate they found themselves in now. They're not the gatekeepers of old, the agenda setters of the world, now they're the tour guides, we are the tourists, and whether they're showing us something through their front pages or through their search algorithms matters very little, because this is the form that publishing has taken in the digital age. The publishing industry don't completely control what gets published anymore, but they do control what we care about, and at the end of the day, that's all they really need to care about as well.